Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 9 to Side podcast, where we chat with super amazing and inspirational people who've pounded the pavement before and after their 9 to 5s to get their side hustles off the ground. After listening to the interviews with these amazing guests, you'll walk away with a refreshed pep in your step and a newfound motivation to make your side hustle a reality. Hey, everybody, and welcome to season 1, episode 18. I can't believe it's episode 18. You guys probably don't know, but this is kind of winding down season 1. I'm going to do 20 episodes and then take a brief hiatus super quick over the summer because the summer is jam-packed with big events. I mean, not crazy big events, but birthdays and so forth. And then one of the big events would be my wedding anniversary. Not saying we do anything crazy or anything, but my husband and I got married on June 1st, 2013. Super blissful day. And when I think back to our wedding and all the planning, and when I talk to the young folks, those crazy lovebirds planning their weddings now, and they're talking about all the details and the invites and everything that goes into it and all the detail, I think back to, just how important every little decision was because it was your wedding. After all, it was such a big deal. And it's such an amazing time because it's before you have kids and you're tired and you're bitter and you've worked 500 hours and you're just like, it's when you're young and fresh and getting married and everything's exciting. And, every detail around it is really important. And one of the biggest things is, the wedding invitations, because that's what you're sending out to people to announce that you're getting married, to invite them to come to your wedding. So it's really important that the wedding invitations kind of have the feel, the vibe of you as a couple. And I think a lot of thought goes into how you want to communicate to your guests, whether it's an evite or whether you do like a super formal invitation or what that looks like. And for me, as I've mentioned on many of my podcasts, I am zero creativity. Like I have no creativity whatsoever. So I have an idea of what my feel is and kind of what I want to go for. But it really takes somebody who has that talent to take hearing my thoughts and feedback and then, articulating that back to me and then translating that into something that looks like a beautiful invitation. And my next guest, Lisa Purcell, who is also a very dear friend of my husband and I, and actually did our wedding invitations. It was, one of her first gigs before she even formally started this side hustle, then became her full-time business. But she is insanely talented and so good at that. She will just sit down, listen to what your ideas are, who you are as a person, what your vibe is, and then basically take that and translate that into a beautiful, gorgeous paper themed invitation. And to me, that is a talent I will never have. I just think is incredible. So she started that business. I think she started doing it for kind of friends and family, and it started as a side hustle, and she's transitioned it to her full-time gig. It's called Art, Paper, Scissors, which I love. I think is also, side note, one of the coolest names for a business. And she's just a wonderful, wonderful person. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my interview with Lisa Purcell. I want to welcome Lisa Purcell. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
So exciting. All right. So before we get into kind of the backstory of who you are, I want to just quickly tell everybody what your business is, give us a quick elevator pitch of it, and whether it is still a side hustle or it's become a full-time career.
Yeah. So at Art, Paper, Scissors, that's the name of our company. And we make custom wedding invitations. So, save the dates, wedding invitations, anything for receptions, which started as a small side gig. And then it just kind of snowballed into something that I realized that I loved. And, it's something that we do full time now. We probably have a team of 8 or 9, depending on the time of year. But yeah, it's awesome. We make custom wedding invitations for brides, They come in, we talk about what they like and what they don't like, and then we make different designs and create exactly what they're looking for from scratch. It's a fun collaboration between ourselves and the couples.
So it's a full-time career now.
For sure. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So take us back, tell us a little bit about who you are, and then walk us through kind of how you got started with this idea, where it came from, and how it became a full-time career.
It actually started, I worked in graphic design, and a cousin of mine asked me to do her wedding invitations, which made sense because I was a graphic designer. And I happily did them and really loved just being in the wedding industry. I loved working with her and, just going over fun papers and pretty flowers and, pretty designs. I was used to in graphic design doing brochures about light bulbs and things like that. So it was like a welcome breath of fresh air to do some like pretty flower.
You're like, oh, this is fun. Did you go to school for graphic design? So tell us about, like, in terms of, you always had, was that always your passion, graphic design?
Yeah.
So you went to school to study?
No, I actually went to school for mechanical engineering. So very different than graphic design. But once I finished 4 years of mechanical engineering, I was kind of like, well, I don't really like this. So my poor parents let me stay for an extra year.
It took you 4 years to come to that conclusion. At graduation, I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah. So it's funny though, because all my life, I always did Photoshop as a hobby. I remember when I was a kid and it was like Photoshop 1.0. I used to Photoshop my sister's head on like boys' bodies, like for fun. So it was always like a hobby, but I don't know why I was never steered in that direction. And I even used to collect business cards as a child, and I used to collect junk mail because I like marketing. And I don't know why it never dawned on me that that could be like a career.
Why did you go to the track of mechanical engineering, just out of curiosity?
I really liked physics. I really liked calculus. I really liked math and science, and I was good at it. So it made sense, But yeah, it just wasn't something I wanted to do for my life. So then I was like, oh, well, let me try like a class in architecture to try to bridge engineering with art. And I really hate buildings. I don't find anything interesting about them. So that wasn't a good fit. And then someone was like, advertising. And I did a couple, like the first class of graphic design. I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for, which is funny because I used to work in like a computer lab in college, and people would come in and I would do their advertising homework for them.
So you never before this ever thought about like, I could maybe find a track in this, because graphic design is one of those things that I feel like has a cut, like a track you can follow.
It's the dumbest thing ever that I did not.
I'm not trying to get you to say that. I feel like mechanical engineering is like way on the other side of the spectrum of the creativity that.
It's so true. But once I took one class in graphic design, I was like, this is perfect because I'm not a fine artist by nature. Like I could probably draw better than the next person, but I'm definitely not a fine artist. But graphic design was this perfect way of taking what was in my head and putting it on paper. I could use a computer program to create the artwork instead of having to draw it by hand. So it was like a perfect marriage.
Were you always into using, because it sounds like were you like a crafty person? Like, did you like to do things, or you're always using like computer stuff to create art, like I always loved
Photoshop and doing things like that. But I also used to always like hand make my Halloween costume. So I always liked doing crafty, creative things. Like that was always in my blood. I just never put together that with a career. It was always just a hobby. So it was just strange. Like looking back, I'm like, that was really dumb.
So you went for 4 years, but you graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, and then you pursued?
No, I ended up graduating with a degree in Bachelor of Arts after my 5th year. It was like maybe 3.5 years of engineering, and then I switched over.
And then you switched over. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once you graduated with that, were you like, I just want a career as a graphic designer for, what did you do?
I went right to an advertising agency. I worked at one for a few years, and then I transitioned to another agency, and I really loved doing that. I had no problems doing it. It's just once I did wedding invitations and got into the wedding industry, I was like hooked.
So it was just that first, you think, so you had never had a thought about like, I'd really love to start my own business. I don't like working for somebody else. It was just that one ask of somebody being like, would you do my wedding invitations, that really kind of opened. Was that?
I mean, it definitely sparked it. But, I did grow up, my mother owned her own business as well. So I loved that she was always able to be present for things and You have this illusion that when you have your own business, you can totally make your own schedule and do whatever, which is an illusion, like you don't have like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
You end
end
up
up
working
working
more.
more, having
Yeah.
less time off and everything. She was always present for every track meet or every gymnastics meet or whatever it was. She was there. So that was always like nice to aspire to as well.
Did that coincide with you're married, you have kids? Did this coincide some of this thought to do any of this side of work with getting married and having kids? Like, tell us about the
Yeah, I
thought
mean, I
process
think,
of kind of
yeah,
starting to
because I
pursue
think
it.
at the time, like I had met my husband, Greg, shortly after I graduated college. So while I was dating him and we were talking about marriage and our friends were talking about marriage and now I'm getting into wedding invitations, it all was around the same time. So I feel like you're kind of immersed in the wedding industry at that point. So I think that definitely helped fuel it too, probably.
And did you feel like when you were doing this for, was it friends? Were they paying you, or were you like, I just love doing this. I love working with you. This is just a fun side hobby. Or were you like, these are my rates.
Yeah. Well, so
I'm going to
when
start hustling on the side.
when my cousin asked me to do hers, I said, sure, no problem. I'll just do them for you. And I think, I
Was this
charged her
before
for
you
some of
had
the
kids?
materials. Yes.
Yeah. After kids, you're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I have zero.
No, but after that, it was like her maid of honor saw them and wanted me to do hers. And then I wasn't shy about charging. I don't know that I was on point with my pricing at that point. I probably was basically giving it away, but I didn't know it yet.
Right.
But no, I was like, no, I want to do this. And I knew right away. So I just started trying to build like word of mouth. And, that's where it kind of snowballed. It was at one point, it was just nights and weekends I would do it. And then when it turned to every night and all weekend is when I really had to decide, what was I going to do? Am I going to stay with my full-time job, which was an hour and a half commute each way? Or am I going to just
do this full time?
Yeah.
And were you at that point, had you come up with the business name? Like talk about, so you started it, you were just doing it through referrals. Had you decided to like make it like an actual official business, but you were still just doing like nights and weekends and mostly getting referrals? Was it?
Yeah. So I would say the first set of invitations I did was probably like, I want to say like 2008, maybe, because I got married in 2009 and I obviously did my own. So I want to say like maybe 2008 was the first set I did. And then I didn't officially make my business name until 2010. It was a little while, but it was just those hour and a half commutes. Like I had to work. I would just think about names for businesses. And I always loved paper, all different kinds of paper and textures. So I just wanted something with the word paper in it. And then
absolutely love the name of your business. I'm so surprised that, because it's just so cool, like rock, paper, scissors, art, paper, scissors, that play off that it wasn't taken.
Yeah.
I mean, because I feel like you have the domain for it. It's just, I think it's an awesome business name.
Yeah. No, I really like it too.
Your husband liked it too?
No, I don't think he did at first. I was like, oh, well.
Oh, he didn't?
I don't think so. But now he like loves it. It's grown a personality. So
I absolutely love it. So when you started to get a lot of business, and did you decide, what were some of the things that went into your decision to, make the leap to quit your full-time job? Was it
actually also coincided with when I had my first child, my daughter, Abby. So she was born a couple months premature. So she was in the hospital for like a month, but then came home and had a lot of, wires and monitors. So, in my home office doing this on the side, thinking like, go back to work with her, like with things hooked up to her, Yeah. So it definitely brought forward me having to make a decision. And again, my job was an hour and a half away. I wasn't really able to work remotely. So it just didn't make sense. And at the time I was doing a lot of work on the side and I just loved it. So I just decided to take a leap of faith,
Which is great. I think that happens a lot with people that I talk to. I mean, it just either, I don't know, it's a family related thing. You have kids, you sort of start to weigh your options. And especially after COVID, it's like you look at hour and a half commutes and just the commuting time, and you kind of rethink like what you could be doing with that time. So once you decided to leave your full-time job, did you really change your tactics in terms of trying to, now that it was a full-time job, were you like, I really need to do some marketing? And so talk to me about some of the things that you did to get your name out there and all that stuff.
So some of the first things I did were definitely like, there's one major wedding website that, I started advertising on just to, have a place for people to leave me reviews, because I realized that unless you heard of me from somebody else, people want some source to know that you've done a good job. So I started advertising on the Knot online, and that really helped to start getting then people that I didn't know through somebody else. So it was just totally different source of leads for me. So that really was helpful. I also moved out of my home into an office. So I think that also helped because it just had presented my business as more like official and less you sitting in my living room.
You
I
mean
think
because
that
do
made a
people
difference.
come when you have clients? Is the process, tell me about what the process is. Do they actually meet you in person then?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
now, during COVID, since COVID, we do a lot of Zoom meetings too, because now people realize how we can communicate virtually easily.
Mhm.
But yeah, basically people come in and they sit down and I show them a ton of different samples of invitations we've done in the past, but it's not really like a pick your invitation out of a book kind of process. So I show them different samples. I grill them with questions about fonts and colors and all that kind of stuff, wording. And then at the end of the day, they like everything we're talking about. We actually create 3 totally different designs tailored to them. So then they generally come back again in a few weeks and we present them the designs and they kind of pick and choose different parts of each. Maybe they like ribbon that's around the other one, or maybe they like the wording or a pocket. So it's a great way that we collaborate with these couples where they're part of the creative process, but they just essentially don't have to do any of the work.
That's great. So 3 is the standard that you present to them, and then they get to
Yeah.
kind of iterate on and give you feedback on those.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, exactly.
that's great. Just going back really quickly to the marketing, getting your name out there and referrals. Is the
Yeah.
Knot and referrals kind of and awards? You've also won a significant amount of awards on the Knot, like year after year,
Yeah.
right? I saw that. Does that take the biggest weight in terms of like getting you new business for the industry that you're in?
Honestly, to this day, I do keep track of it, and word of mouth is still number one. Yeah, word of mouth is still the biggest source of new clients because a lot of times now it's like a sister or a friend. So there's times where I'll get one couple and then 10 people from somehow in their circle. So it's still that. And also now Instagram is a huge thing for us, even still Facebook is big. Like there's Facebook wedding groups that talk about you and people will ask,
Oh,
hey, who has done invitations? And if you've done a good job, people will absolutely, refer you. I get a lot from that source. Also, different wedding planners, building relationships with different wedding planners is always great because then they'll send, if you make a wedding planner look good and if you can showcase like them and say like, yeah, this is a reliable vendor that you can trust, they'll send their brides your way. So that's also a great revenue, a great revenue source.
that's really smart. I was going to ask, because there's somebody else that I interviewed who does a lot of similar, events, wedding kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have vendors that you consistently work with where you guys are kind of in a circle where you're the wedding, you're the invitations,
Yeah.
and you're like, and you guys do a lot of weddings
Yeah.
together?
Yeah, sometimes we do. I mean, it's hard because I'm not like a lot of those vendors are day of vendors, like the
Mm-hmm.
photographer, the videographer, the mobile bartender that, they're all like the day of people where I'm kind of in the behind the scenes. I'm a couple months before. So I might work with a lot of the vendors at the same time, but we don't ever really see each other.
That's true. And then my other question is, because you're solely focused on weddings, I know you had some other things like baby showers and various other
Yeah.
things, but like, why just wedding invitations? And have you thought about branching out to any other things, any other events or stuff like that? Or
Yeah.
is it just weddings?
You know what? I think it's just the wedding industry keeps us really busy. So, and also it's nice because they're usually big events. There are times that we've done like first birthday party invitations or bachelorette party or some fun things like that, but often they're much smaller scale. So doing 3 different designs is a lot of work for a small scale. It might not be worth it for the customer who just
Yeah.
wants something, who only wants 20 invitations. It might just not be worth it. But it is fun once in a while. We will get some stuff that's just out there, like a 30th birthday party invitation or something that's themed. And that's always fun to just change it up a little bit. But like I said, the weddings just really keep us busy. So we're happy to just stay on that stream.
On that street. Well, the wedding industry is huge. How do you feel like when COVID obviously affected everybody's
Yeah.
business and events, but especially weddings. Did you pivot or change anything? What did you do during that time to kind of stay afloat?
Yeah. So obviously weddings weren't taking place. So that was 2020 was really difficult with that. All I could really do to help these like four brides that had to reschedule everything was just do like free change the dates for them. So we were kind of just busy doing free work. And then we would also still meet with people and still people wanted to plan for their day in hopes that it would come. And if we had to postpone, then we just postpone. But, we did our best just to keep going, keep moving. And then now, after everything opened back up and it doesn't seem like the venues are going to shut back down again, it's only like exploded. So kind of what was lost in 2020 was kind of made up for in 2021 and so far in 2022. So
are you having trouble keeping up? I feel like as you grow, I mean, are you the main one who comes up with the designs? Like, how do you scale that and take on more work? You mentioned you have a staff, but like, how much can you take
yeah.
on and how do you scale your business, I guess?
Well, that's also the nice part about working a couple months ahead of time, not the day of, because if I can see that we have a ton of weddings in October, I can plan to take on more staff to help me with that ahead of time, so we can always plan ahead. We have designers that help do the designs. We have production people that assemble all the invitations. We have social media and marketing that does all of our social media and online posting, which is huge. She photographs all of our invitations for us. So I really tried to outsource a lot of these things so I can focus on growing the business and not working too much. Outsourcing probably isn't the right word, but just, hiring good people that can help with all of that stuff.
Are you still like the design brains behind all of that? Are you more now managing the business and you're letting designers that you hire actually do the designs for the wedding? Or is it still all coming from you?
No, I do have designers that are doing the designs, but I definitely have my eyes on everything. So everything passes through me to just make any tweaks that I want to make or make sure that things are just as I want them to be. But yeah, everything does get passed through me. But no, we do have, designers that create the designs and then they get printed and handed off to production artists who put them together. So it's a lot of me managing the different parts of it. So it all comes together. But, I do have a great team that I could not do any of this without. So
how many people are on your team?
it depends on the season. We do try to take on more people in the summers because it's busier, but usually right now we're at 8 employees.
Oh, wow. I have a question. So your company, obviously the designs came from you. You have a certain aesthetic. I mean, even if you're obviously doing custom invitations based on people's wishes and what they want, but you have a certain aspect to your creativity. Do you try to keep that consistent? Like when your designers are working, is there like an art, paper, scissors kind of aesthetic that you want people to follow? Or is it more you've created like a design studio where people can sort of run with their own designs?
That's a good question. I think that our designers along the way have kind of been trained to know what our aesthetic is. So while I feel like they do have creative freedom, they also know like what the general look and the feel is of art, paper, scissors,
Got it.
Because I think that people are coming to us because they like our aesthetic. So doing something completely out of the blue wouldn't really fit, but they definitely have creative freedom. And there's tons of times that I get designs and I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. I love this. So I love when they come up with things that I'm like, that's just perfect. I wouldn't have ever thought of that. And one of my designers specifically is so great with like wording. She comes up with the most clever wording for things. So if we ever get themed invitations, she's so great with wording. So they all have different things that they're really good at and they bring to the table, which is great.
So are you guys all in the office together, collaborating every day, or do people work remotely?
No. Yeah, I don't think I've seen. So our production artists I see often because they come in to pick up jobs and then they bring them home and put them together and then come back in to drop them off. So I do see them quite often. I haven't seen my designer in like 3 years, I feel like.
Are they around near where you live?
Not too far, but they are relatively in the area, but there's just never been a need. We just do everything like via email or text. So they're happy. I'm happy. So
great. It works.
Yeah, it's usually me and Chewy in the office. So it depends. Like, sometimes we have staff in the office, sometimes they're not, but
Are you hosting big
Chewy
art,
is, of
paper,
course.
scissor, like holiday parties like you used to have at your old office
Ah,
jobs?
I did right before COVID, and then I haven't had one since. So that's like next on my agenda. I was just talking about this. I'm going to do like a spring thing instead, so we can find a great restaurant, sit outside. And I have such a group of great, and they're all like moms with kids around the same age. So we have a lot in common, and I think have a lot that we could talk about together. Some people don't ever meet other people that often. So, oftentimes my production artists have never met my designer, but they're all part of this collaboration. So I try to get them together.
Oh, so you guys don't ever, I guess there's no need, but I was going to say there's no reason for you guys to have big team calls to discuss a project or anything because everybody's working on their
No,
own individual little parts, right?
exactly. Yeah. Because what the production artist does, by the time the production people get the invites to assemble them, that has nothing to do with the designer anymore.
Got it.
So
Oh,
everyone kind of has their own little part down the line.
well, it
So,
works. I mean, and it's a great job to have also flexibility wise for you with kids. I mean, and to be able to run your business and also have a family, which is very impressive to see how much it's grown. You did our wedding invitations in 2008.
no.
So I guess my question is, what do you see as the future for art, paper, scissors? Do you want to expand the business, do other things besides wedding invitations? Are you happy with it? Like, what do you see next for yourself, like in the next 5 years? Is it
No,
great?
you know what? I've been talking with marketing girl, and we definitely see expanding. We want to come up with something that's almost like a semi-custom type suite where you don't have to come and meet with me. It's more of an online experience, but then it can be tailored to you online. So it kind of cuts out whole different 3 different designs and meeting in person. It's like I said, something semi-custom. We can
Mhm.
change wording, fonts, but it's not a completely from scratch design.
Got it. That's really smart. So people could just, yeah, go online and kind of pick their own and do it
Yeah.
all from there without having to meet with you. That's a really good idea. Do you
Yeah.
see anything beyond paper invitations? Is there other things? I mean, you are so creative and crafty. Are there other areas that you're interested in dabbling in beside paper
You know,
invitations?
we try in the off season to do, which the off season didn't really happen this year, but generally in the off season, like in the winters, we try to do like little new calendars every year and sell those online, just something for passive income, which is great because weddings are seasonal. So we try to do little things like that, which are great. I wouldn't mind doing like a line of party invitations or birthday invitations and those being like sold maybe on Etsy or something like that. So we do try to do little things like that. But like I said, we are busy and managing the bridal clients we have now, and that's keeping us really busy. So once I can get through like the wedding season, I think it'll give me more time to kind of look at how to expand. But I think going online more will be the next smart thing to do.
Got it. And wedding season obviously is, what is it? Typically, is it October to May? No, what is the wedding
Yeah, so
season?
usually it's usually May, June, July, August, September, October, and even like November now,
Oh,
really.
May to October. Sorry. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you taking clients all over the country? Because you're based on the East Coast. Are you primarily taking clients that are in that area? Or are you taking clients in like Florida, all over the place that are in warmer weathers who might do weddings in the
Yeah,
winter?
no, we definitely take clients all over. I mean, obviously, just because a lot of it is word of mouth and stuff, a lot of our clients are in the tri state area, but we definitely do plenty that are West Coast or just heard from us through a friend, or maybe they live out there but are getting married in New Jersey. So they're looking for someone to do stationery from New Jersey. So, yes, we do work with people all over, but it's still mainly probably like East Coast.
East Coast based. Got it. And then are there any specific resources or sites that you've used along the way that you'd recommend that have really helped you build your business, grow in terms of, expanding?
It's
What would you?
funny. It's actually your husband gave me a book recommendation so many years ago that's still like stuck with me with good tips in it. It was called The E-Myth Revisited, I want to say.
Oh,
And it was
yes. It
just,
talks about that. Yeah.
yeah, it was just a really good book, and I still struggle with some of the things in it, but it makes so much sense. It's about trying to work on your business, not in your business. So, and I remember having this conversation with Brian and him asking me, like, do you want to physically make wedding invitations for your life, or do you want to own a business that makes wedding invitations? And that was like the perfect way to say it. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I want to own a business that makes wedding invitations. Like,
Right.
so I think at first that was a struggle for me because I used to design them and cut them out and glue them and do everything. And I think one of the best things I did was find people that are better than I can be at some of these tasks. So it's great. That was one of the best things, was just outsourcing some of this. For instance, social media is just not my forte. I just don't have that voice for it. You know, I hired Megan, who does all of our social media, and she just has the best voice for this. She takes wonderful pictures. She has the enthusiasm that I want to have, but I just don't have the words.
Exhausting though. People that do social media, it is a whole other talent, especially people that are small businesses, and the amount of posts and reels and videos and things you have to do. I mean, that is a full-time gig. And
so she's worth her weight in gold. She brings in all this business and I don't need to do it. So that's just a huge win-win relationship, you know, and now I don't make the invitations anymore. You know, I have a couple production girls who are just so detail oriented. They care as much as I do and they want everything to be perfect. And that's just great. You know, they put together everything for me. So I think at first I struggled because I was like, oh, I like cutting things and gluing them together and making them. But then I just always went back to that conversation. Like, do I want to make wedding invitations forever, or do I want this to be bigger than that? And the only way I could make it bigger and expand was to stop doing all the tasks within my business.
I think it is hard though, if you are the one who's the creative mind and coming up with that, to start to outsource some of that. You know, those are your ideas, but it's become bigger than that. I mean, you've obviously grown the business so much since 2008 when you first started doing it.
Yeah.
And so happy for you, from the days when you were driving an hour and a half. Same with Brian, which you think back to now and you're like, that's crazy. So anyway, in closing, I only have a couple more questions and then I'll let you go. The one thing I want to ask you is, how has pursuing this side hustle changed your thoughts about yourself, or sort of how you approach things? Like, if you had never left to do it, has it made you feel like more empowered, like you could do other things? Like, what has it changed for you?
I feel like it truly fills me up, and I have a great family. My husband is so supportive. I have 2 great kids. So that fills me up in one way, but I love doing what I do. And I'm truly feel so fortunate that I get to be one of those people who gets to go to work. Like, I don't have the Sunday scaries. I love my job. So, you know, it really does fill me up. And then I also just have a lot of great employees, like I said, that are all like moms, and we're all working on flexible schedules. And I love that we can just all get it done without having those constraints that oftentimes those 40-hour jobs where you have to sit at your desk and not move a muscle, like that's just not me. I just like being around other women who are trying to work with their kids and get it all done. You know, it's empowering.
That's so cool. I love that you're working also with other women, because it is true. It's so nice. I think it's an even bigger accomplishment to be able to still have whatever, your little piece of the world that's yours, that's your career, you're passionate about, whatever it is, and still be able to do the family stuff and not have to trade one for the other, which has often been the case. So I think it's even more empowering that you've been able to do that, and it's your own business that you've been able to be successful in growing, which is incredible.
And like I said, I saw that my mom had that. You know, I saw her grow her own business. Like, I wanted that. I want my girls to see me work and be successful and enjoy it. Work doesn't always have to be like, oh, I have to go to work. It doesn't always have to be a negative. You know, they could say like, mommy loves work.
Which is awesome. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly. And the Sunday scaries, I love that everybody knows about the Sunday scaries. Oh gosh. What would you say to people who are interested in starting a side hustle? Doesn't have to be in like what you're doing, but what are a couple tips you would give to people who might be starting side hustles?
I think one of the biggest ones was like kind of what I touched on before, is that even though it might seem scary to bring somebody else into your vision, identify what your strengths and like weaknesses are. You know, like, was I really looking to necessarily hire someone to do a job that I had the time to do with social media? No, but I mean, it has been the best decision I ever made. So I think identify what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then where you can fill in the gaps with some help with someone who might just do a better job than you at something, then do that. You know, let other people help you grow. Also, figuring out work-life balance. That was hard for me at first. Setting boundaries. People want to meet Saturdays and Sundays and every night of the week. And I finally got to a point where I'm like, okay, just Saturdays and 2 nights a week. I'll stay till like 9 o'clock at night for meetings. But, you have to kind of set boundaries. What are you willing to sacrifice? So that has really helped as well. And then passive income is another one. That's a great way just to kind of come up with something that can kind of fill in the gaps when things aren't always at their best.
Right. Those are great tips. I think those are really, in terms of taking the leap, do you have anything to say, like if making that decision to leave your full-time job and do this full-time, was that like scary for you? Do you feel like that was just something that people have to be ready for, or?
Yeah. Well, I was really fortunate again, because my husband was really supportive. So he's like, yeah, do it, So that was a really big help. And my family was on board with it too. So it was everyone nudging me in the right direction was very helpful. And once I did, all I wished is that I had done it sooner. So, it's hard to say, just like take a leap, because that's difficult, but sometimes I think it's worth just taking a gamble on yourself at the risk of doing something that could truly make you happy every day.
Right.
So even though it's like scary, I always thought to myself, like, okay, if I totally fail at this, I still have a degree. I still have some work experience that I can fall back on. So it's not like if this fails, that's it for me forever. I'm doomed to like sweep floors in a basement somewhere for life. I still have skills. I still have talents that I could, find something. So I think just to have a little faith in yourself and taking a little risk could definitely pay off.
I love that, because it's definitely paid off for you. And it's been really great to see you grow with your business, which is so cool. Lastly, I just wanted to tell people where they can find you on the internet, your website, social media, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So we're at artpaperscissorsdesign.com, and we're also on Instagram, Facebook. We post content nonstop. It's at Art Paper Scissor. We're constantly updating, putting all new videos, photos, so you can see all of our stuff online. Our website, email, phone number is all on our website at artpaperscissorsdesign.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That was awesome. Thanks for joining. And all right.